to for those that are unable to come on tonight, because I know a few people had mentioned they couldn't make it tonight. Obviously, I made a change from Tuesday to Wednesday for obvious and really good reasons. So my objective is to go through a couple of things really quickly to make sure all of you guys are well prepared as we start a U7-U8 rec program this coming Saturday. I'll speak on behalf of the association. We're very thankful for you guys willing to step up and help us out. Without your help, we would not be able to run a program as big as the U7-U8 rec program as effectively as we do. But just to make sure that we're all on the same page, there's a couple key items that need to be addressed, hence tonight's meeting. Now, I prefer to speak to people face to face, but given the times that we find ourselves in, this is as good as we probably can get, the best we can probably do. But we want to make sure that everyone is up to speed. At any point, if you do have any questions, because I'll go through things, don't hesitate to use the chat. And then I may well ask you just to unmute, to speak up and to maybe clarify yourself. But other than that, just stay muted for now. That way we don't have additional background noise. And I said, you don't have to have your camera on, really. I just want to talk, basically take you through a couple of important things to make sure you're well prepared. Some of you may have helped in U7-U8 rec before. Many of you are probably new to the program and don't know exactly what to expect. There may be some anxiety there, some nerves. You don't know exactly what you need to do. Hopefully by tonight, between what I already shared with you guys via email and this presentation, you guys are very well prepared. So if you looked at the document that I shared with you guys in multiple emails, actually, in the on top of the screen, on top of the page, it will tell you obviously that this is, there was a document outlining the learning objectives for the U7-U8 rec program, alongside with this, the catchphrase "kicking isn't soccer," and I'm going to keep coming back to that. All right. The main thing we want our players to get more comfortable doing is dribble. Right. Our focus is going to be heavily on their ability to dribble, and it's both being more comfortable, being more confident, and becoming more capable. Those are all part of, but again, I'll keep coming back to that. Right? We don't want to play just to swing at the ball, kick the ball up. We don't want to tell them just to kick at the ball and see what happens. We really want them to grow confident and comfortable with the ball. So without further ado, all right, so really quickly, and again, I shared these slides with you in preparation for, just to make sure you guys knew what you're expecting, but I'm going to try to clarify our learning objectives for this program, tied into the overall development philosophy of the association, because U7 and U8 rec are a big part of the program of the association, a big program part of the association, sorry. And every year, right, it's like building a house. You start with a foundation, then you start to, put up the walls, you lay the bricks and so on before you put on the house, put the roof on the house. Every year we add to the house, so to speak, and there's a reason behind the program setup. So I'll share that with you, and if at any point you do have any questions, please do ask. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear. One of my downfalls is that I have it very clear for myself what I want our children, our members, the participants to get out of the program. There's also something called the course of knowledge. To me, it's very clear. To you, it may not be clear. So ask questions, please, if something is not clear. All right, so I'll also go through the program setup between the Saturday practice sessions and the Sunday games, and we'll talk about the role of the volunteer. So what is expected of you? And I'll tell you right now, if you are here to help the children, and you know it's about them, you're already on the right track. You don't have to be, you haven't have to have played at the highest level. You don't need D1 playing experience or coaching experience at a high level to be a very effective coach in the U7-U8 rec program. The number one thing that I always look for is whether or not you're able to talk to children, whether or not you're able to engage them, and most importantly of all, are you there for them, right? Do you understand what their needs are? So the core principles of the development philosophy, sharing them with you so you hopefully get a better idea of where we are, where we're going, and where U7-U8 rec fit in this. So the first and most important one, and I can't say this enough, if it ain't fun, why bother? I want, as an association, we want these children to develop a love for the sport. And selfishly, I want it to become a sport for life. I have a hunch that many of you have played yourself, maybe still play, have played at a reasonably level, maybe intramural, whatever you have done, but you love the sport and you want to help your child fall in love with the sport as well and their friends. This is key to all that we do. If children do not enjoy what they're doing, the chances are much greater that they walk away from the sport at an early age. And a good experience at a younger age, U7 and U8 rec, for example, can guarantee that they will actually stay involved with the sport at whatever level suits their needs, both in interest as well as in ability, by the way. But a good experience now will help us meet this objective. And the second one, just give me a second, I need to get some water. Soccer is and will always be a player's game. You may have heard this before, but we want to develop independent, capable, and confident decision makers. So what do we mean by that? Now, soccer is indeed a player's game in which they have to make decisions constantly on both sides of the ball and even in the transition phases. All right, we want to help them become better decision makers. We want to help them become more confident in themselves. We want them to become more capable. So you talk about the execution of the decisions, and most important of all, independent, as in they got to be able to do it themselves. Right, I'll come back to this, but the slogan, coaching isn't controlling, is key to all of us. Please, please, please encourage them to dribble, but don't tell them what to do when they're on the ball. Right, and this is something I share with every coach, whether it's U5, U7, or even with our U23s, when our professional coaches would work with our U23 program through the Union County FC program. We don't want to tell players what to do while they're in the midst of things. That is not coaching, that is controlling. Right, so we want to help them become independent, capable, and confident decision makers. So the two core principles of the development philosophy, these two principles drive almost everything that we do. All right, so now, all right, and we need to understand that this is, we aim to create or develop a child-centered environment, an environment in which the needs of the children are central to all that we do. All right, so it's really important to recognize who's in front of you. Now, at the start of U7, I'm just going to U7 right now, given how the age groups are aligned right now, or better said, how players are divided over age groups, given that's done by a year of birth. Some children starting U7 could be as young as 5 years of age. At U8, they still could be 6 years of age. All right, none of these kids are going to turn 8 throughout this program when it comes to U8. So you're talking about 5, 6, potentially 7-year-olds. All right, so now what do we know about 5, 6, and 7-year-olds? They're they're not so good at sharing yet. They struggle, with some of the basic body mechanics still. Right, so we need to keep that in mind when we work in a program like U7 and U8 rec. We're graduating from what was U5, U6, the Fun of Soccer program, where we talk about early engagement, giving them an opportunity to get used to the ball, to now creating an environment in which they're given the chance to dribble often, a lot, consistently. All right. Everything that we do is based on the needs of the learner. So we need to know who is in front of us and who we're dealing with. I know. Now, what I mean by the adult version or the child version, unfortunately, many times when adults get involved in youth sports, and I'm going to speak about youth soccer, but I have a hunch this happens in other sports as well. We have a different view on how the game should be played, whether that's through our own experience as a player, potentially as a coach. But our view on how the game should be played is different from what children see and also what children comprehend as in what they understand. And that's really important to know. We already think about complex schemes in which we talk about shapes, organization, passing, moving. We have the ability to see all that. Children 5, 6, 7 years of age don't have that yet, right? Their prefrontal cortex, which is a big part of that's the part of the brain that regulates all that. In developing children is not fully developed yet. They don't see what we see. All right, we have to understand that. So going back to the needs of the learner, all right, what do they need? All right, they just need to be given a chance to play with the ball, to be able to dribble, to develop their basic dribbling ability. And eventually, if they're ready for it and they start to pick up their head, they will start to pass the ball. A lot of adults will say, all right, we need to pass, we need to kick, we need to do. That will come. But let's not force things on children that they're not ready for yet. Right? So just let that sink in. Right? We're coaching the children. It should be about their needs. It's not about the version that we have in our head, or but I said the version that we, for example, watched on TV when the Euros took place a couple, let's say 2 months ago. All right. So where do you start then? All right. I came across this picture not too long ago. Talked about like developing a sport for life, helping them become more independent, capable, and confident decision makers. One little step at a time. All right. We can't force too many things on children too soon. One, because they may not be ready for it. Two, if we force too much upon them in a short amount of time, the information that we're trying to share with them is not going to sink in. It will not speed up the development if we give them more information. I like to, and I'm still working on that myself. I like to use the motto, less is more. Narrow your focus, one little bit at a time. And as you go, that will actually, over time, hopefully accelerate the growth of the children that we're working with. So, because of that, we have set clear program development objectives. So we want players to be able to dribble out of trouble, okay? We want to help them develop a soft first touch. Many players will struggle with this. Right? Many of them will struggle to control the ball, bring it under control before they start dribbling, all right? Which is challenging, right? We're not talking about kicking if we're near the goal and we're using puck nets. Right, then we talk about shooting, right? But we're not looking to kick the ball away. Right, kicking the ball up the field has nothing to do with soccer, right? If we tell these children if they're not ready for it yet, especially to pass, they're just going to kick aimlessly at the ball, all right? And as I said earlier, once players are ready, we can talk about passing, but that's only if they have figured out a way to dribble out of trouble and they also have the head up. And I'll tell you right now, looking at U7-U8 going into U9. This is probably only for the small minority of players. Right? The majority of them will struggle enough to develop in these areas, to develop to move forward as they go. And why are we focusing so much on dribbling? Dribbling is the foundation skill upon all the other soccer skills are built. If you can't dribble, and dribbling is really body balance, being able to shift your body weight from one leg to the other, bending your knees, being balanced. If you don't have that, passing the ball, receiving the ball, shooting the ball, etc., will become a challenge. All right. It's easy to teach someone who is capable of dribbling and maybe over dribbles a little bit to pass the ball eventually, than to teach someone that was taught all the time, especially when they were younger, to pass the ball, how to dribble ball now. All right. It's easier to teach someone who dribbles the ball frequently, maybe over dribbles a little bit, to pass than the other way around. So what stages do we go through then? And this will be different for each and every player, each and every child. All right. And some teams with the look of the draw may have a few more players that are a little like that pick up on this a little faster than others. Sometimes the physical ability, as in being a little bigger, a little stronger, a little faster, will also play a role. And don't confuse that with their soccer development, by the way, because over time, right, those that rely on the physical ability alone will be bypassed by those that actually focus on their development of their decision making as well as their execution, which is really the technique that we talked about earlier. So let's start with this. If this doesn't happen, and you talk about the development stages, if this doesn't happen, all that we talked about will not happen. All right. We have to encourage these players to dribble consistently, often, a lot. All that we do in our training on Saturdays is geared towards this. And don't expect isolated technique drills in which we have them dribble through cones. I also want to stress that. But most of what we do, if not all that we do, will focus on dribbling in some way or form, whether it will be like a basic game of sharks and minnows to like a 1v1 activity in which one player has to steal the ball from the other and the player with ball is trying to dribble past the defender. All right, but we're all going to focus on dribbling. We want to have them dribble, so encourage them all the time. And I'm going to paint you a picture now. Earlier on, I talked about the adult version of the game versus the child version of the game. And I've shared this story a couple of times, but a couple of years ago when I came out on, I believe on a Sunday morning, observing what was going on with the U7 and U8 rec program, there was a child who picked up the ball, dribbled past 3 opponents, and then tried to take on the 4th opponent, which in my mind is brilliant. This kid is getting comfortable on the ball, more capable on the ball, and is independently deciding, hey, I want to take on these players, which is fantastic. To which one of the adults involved shouted, "Who do you think you are? Do you think you're Messi?" I love that. I love the kid to think he's Messi or anyone that's capable on the ball. The coach, however, thought he was, named someone, Jose Mourinho, Jurgen Klopp. For those not familiar with them, those are like well-known professional coaches. But it's okay if a child over dribbles, right? We don't need them to pass the ball all the time yet. Psychosocially, emotionally, mentally, most of them aren't ready for that yet, right? But we have to encourage them to dribble, right? It starts with dribbling in a straight line, right? Which is challenging enough for many. I mean, my kid is, I have two boys myself. My oldest one is actually, if he would be playing in Westfield, he would be a U7. For him, dribbling in a straight line at times is a challenge. All right. Sometimes running in a straight line for him is a challenge, for that matter. Learn to change direction, which is, again, body balance, shifting your body weight from one leg to the other with the ball. Very challenging. The next phase. All right. And then become multi-directional, as in being able to dribble at will in every direction possible, depending on what happens in front of you, which again, is very, very challenging. We have very little time. If players do a lot on their own at home with a ball, this will eventually happen. But it starts with encouraging them to dribble, as I said earlier. All right, so these are the stages that we'll go through. All right. And again, if you have any questions at any point, let me know, because I'm just going through this because I also want to be mindful of your time. So I want to make sure that everyone understands this, and you may have seen this in some presentation used somewhere else, maybe in the corporate world. Excuse me, I have to get out some water again, but there is no such thing as a quick fix when it comes to child development. We can't accelerate the growth of players if we start to skip steps in the process. Right? If you start focusing on the outcome of these Sunday morning games, or the Sunday afternoon games, I should better say now, all right, just so the kids win, then again, you are more focused on your own ego, and you're probably not well suited to be a youth soccer coach or youth coach, for that matter. Right? There's no such thing as a quick fix. Children need to be given time. Right? Anything they learn, they need time to do so. Some pick things up a little faster than others. Good example is, when they start learning to walk, some pick up much quicker than others, right? But it's not like suddenly a baby rolls over, pulls himself or herself up on the couch, let's go, start walking, and eventually runs away. That takes time. The same applies to to developing your ability to dribble the ball, being capable and being confident as well. All right, so don't expect a quick fix. And if things don't work out well on Sundays, that is okay. Right? If your team doesn't win all their games, that is okay. There is a reason why we don't keep track of scores. I mean, we're talking about 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. Some teams simply will be stronger because some teams probably have 1 or 2 more players that are more capable, or maybe are slightly further in their development. Right? And when I say development, it's not just as a player, but also as a child. A couple of inches here can make a big difference. Don't confuse the physical development, as I said earlier, with the development of their soccer ability as well as their soccer intelligence. All right, quickly going through the program setup. So the Saturday practice sessions, we partnered up with United Soccer. They have now run our U7 and U8 rec program the last 2 years very successfully. The reason that we work with them is because out of all the partners that we met with, we know and we have seen it, they're best suited to help us, run the program successfully, keeping an eye on the development philosophy and the learning objectives set for the program. All right. So on Saturdays, we have an hour practice. When the players show, the professional coaches assigned to run these sessions are told just to start with a simple game, because not everyone will show up at the same time. As an FYI, that's just how it is. If you start at, I think the first session starts at 8:30, Some kids don't show till 8:40, unfortunately, because mama and papa also have to get out of bed on Saturday morning to get their son or daughter there, right? Then we go into a variety of activities that eventually will grow in complexity. And I don't know if intensity is the right word, but eventually it goes from, as I said before, dribbling unopposed to dribbling semi-opposed to dribbling opposed in 1v1. And then the last 15 minutes plus, because we have an hour, we'll go back to a 4v4 game, which will be played utilizing the game format set for our U7-U8 rec program, which I'll touch on a little bit as well. Okay. Sunday games, I think the times for the different age groups are already set. Teams will be given an opportunity to play against each other. So we have different countries playing each other. So you have, say, the Netherlands versus the USA. Each team will defend the side. And you're given a time slot for, I think, about an hour or so. The earlier you start, the more time you have. And you can divide the time that you have in quarters to ensure there's breaks in between. But all you want to do is maximize the very little time that you have to play the game. Right? And we play 4v4. Now, what is the setup of these Sunday games? So we play 4v4, no goalkeepers. Will some children stand in front of the puck goals? Absolutely. Encourage them to get involved. No goalkeepers, no blocking of the goal. Encourage them to get away from the goal. Right? They should be closer to the ball instead of running away at this age. We use the new ball method when the ball goes over the sideline. Right? Now, what does it mean? When, say the Netherlands plays USA, the Netherlands touches the ball last, ball goes over the sideline. There's adults, coaches spread around the field with extra soccer balls. Right? If the ball comes up the Netherlands, whoever is closest to where the ball went out of bounds will roll the ball back in for Team USA. Right? And you can roll it to the person closest to you. Right? There's no need to focus on throw-ins, kick-ins, whatever, because that will only slow down the game. Right? When the ball goes over the sideline, we'll just put a new ball in play. And again, make sure that all the adults involved are spread around the field with extra soccer balls. You can use some of the older siblings to help you. Heck, you can even ask one of the two of the other parents to help out. But the more people that are around the sideline, the easier it will be to get a ball back in play. So that's a new ball method. When the ball goes out of bounds over the back line, whoever is close to the back line, just put the ball down on the back line. Give one of the players an opportunity to dribble the ball back in play. So again, child version of the game, focused on dribbling, increasing the actual playing time. No goal kicks whatsoever. All right, so this is 44 youth soccer. We don't need throw-ins right now. We don't need kick-ins. We don't talk about offside. By the way, I see that I spelled that incorrectly. Or goal kicks. All of that will come later. We have only 2 hours between Saturday and Sunday. We want to make sure that once we're out playing, we increase the actual playing time. Because again, you may have an hour. If we start focusing on throw-ins, kickoffs, goal kicks, now you name it, right? We'll be standing around more than that we're actually playing, if that makes sense. That's what there's a difference between the gross time, so to speak, the time that you actually have and the time that you actually use playing. Right? So this is why, right? We talk about the new ball method, increase the actual playing time. So a couple of the advantages other than that, this will actually increase the actual playing time. Again, very little time, use it wisely. As a volunteer, you can also help get every child involved. Some children at this age are more assertive. Some children may not be as aggressive yet and step into the ball all the time. If you notice that and the ball goes out of bounds, you may be able to roll the ball to this child a little more often to keep this child involved as well. Right? This method is not set up to throw the ball over the heads of all the players to set up breakaways towards the goal. If that's your thinking, I'll go back to something I said earlier, then you're probably not very well suited to be a youth soccer coach or youth coach to begin with. This is, as I said, to increase the actual playing time to keep everyone involved. Ball goes out of bounds over the sideline, as I said earlier, right? Just put a new ball in to someone close to where the ball went out of bounds. When the ball goes over the back line, just put the ball down on the back line and tell one of these children, here's the ball, dribble it in. Don't, please don't tell them to pass or kick the ball off the field because you're worried about losing the ball to your own goal or close to your own goal. That is okay. Just like it is okay if a child dribbles in front of the goal. These are all things they have to experience and eventually learn from. All right, so that's the new ball method. quickly touch on the role of the volunteer, and I'm pretty certain I can hold true to what I said about the time needed to go through all this. So you are a facilitator, and what I mean by that is you are helping us. You're helping, more important, these players, these children, our members, by giving them an opportunity to play. As I explained, your role when it comes to the Sunday games, there's very little coaching involved. We don't talk about shape, formations. You're encouraging children to get involved, to stay involved, and dribble. All right, and a lot during the games, you're making sure you put in a gear, you put in a ball to make sure that they continue to play. All right. It's about the children. Again, if you focus on the outcome of the game, just think to yourself, is this actually child-centered, or is this about my needs? All right. It's process-driven. There's a reason why we don't keep track of the scores. All right. If your team wins every game every week, that doesn't say anything about your ability to coach. It could well just be because you, through the draw and the way teams have been lined up, you were just fortunate to get some of the better players or more athletic athletes at this point in time. Okay. And last but not least, it's okay to include the other parents. You can also share with them what we're looking to do, what our program objectives are, explain the why behind. And again, you can use them, right? The more people we have to help them, like when the ball goes out of bounds, the quicker the ball's back in play, the greater the actual playing time is during games as well. Right. So again, you don't have to have a lot of playing experience yourself to be a good coach. You don't have to have a lot of coaching experience to be a good facilitator, volunteer in this program. As long as you understand that it's about the children and you understand that we're trying to encourage them to dribble as often as they possibly can, as this is the foundation upon which we like to build in the years to come, you're on the right track. I share this with almost all the coaches across the program, right? How do you measure the development of a child? It's sometimes really hard, but as I said earlier, when you talk about these stages that children need to go through, from being encouraged to dribble and having the mindset to dribble, to being able to dribble in a straight line, to change direction, to becoming multi-directional, that's more important than winning your games every Sunday. All right, so I'm going to stop the slide presentation because I got through it perfectly fine in the time that I wanted. Anyone, any questions about anything that I just shared with you, please ask them now, because we want to make sure that you're well prepared going into your game, going into the weekend. All right.
I have a question. If I understand there's only 4 people on the field, but there's like 10 people or so on the team. So are the volunteers responsible for subbing people into the games? And do you have any advice on that?
So yes, so you want to make sure, and it's a very good question. Thank you for bringing it up, because I didn't mention it in my excuse me, in what I just shared with all you guys. So depending on the number of players, you could have anywhere from 8, 9 to 10 players on your team. That doesn't mean they all show up every week, by the way. So if you are allotted about an hour for the game and you decide with the opposing coaches to say play 4 quarters of 12 minutes, try to find a way to rotate the players through that they all effectively play about the same amount of time. It's not an exact science. Sometimes a kid gets hurt and needs to be subbed out. But try to, try to make sure that they're all given a chance every couple minutes to go on and off. So you could say every 4 minutes, every 5 minutes, depending on the length of the quarters or the halves that you're using. Because as I said, we haven't set exactly how long the games are. You have a time slot given and you can manage it accordingly. I would say experience of lessons learned from prior years is that as the season progresses and it gets a little colder, you may also not have everyone show up. People may be away, whatever it is. So you could have 10 players on the roster, but at any given time have only 6 or 7 show up. Just try to keep track of time while also making sure that all of them are given a chance to go on the field on occasion. Hopefully that clarifies it. I don't think it, like I said, it's an exact science, but hopefully it helps. All right, Jay, go ahead.
So these are some really annoying questions, by the way, but one, is there any form that has to be filled out for like a COVID form before the practice and the game?
Yes. So let me see if I can find it on the website. And if I
I think I
can,
saw it on the website, but I didn't. Okay, so I think I know what that form is. It's that one. It's that very simple, like 1 minute form, right?
yeah, so, let me see if I can find it. And if I can find it, I'll actually show where you guys can find it.
And then I have another more annoying questions related to
Yeah, no,
COVID.
no, don't worry about it. All right, so, let
I mean,
me share my screen really quick. So I'll answer the first question and then I'll give you the opportunity to ask the next question as well. Okay, so sit tight, please, and they're all good questions. So this is actually on the website of U7 and U8 Rec, or this is U8 Rec. You scroll all the way down. It tells you, COVID protocols, etc. There's an instruction page. There we go.
Yep.
So let me see. It's the. Let me go to the COVID page. Rec COVID info. There it is. And you do here. Here it is. It's a play health questionnaire. It's type form. You click on here. You can do that off your phone. You only have to answer a couple of questions, and before every session, your child, as well as if you're a coach, you should fill it out as well, just to say that your child and yourself are able to be out of the field. Basically, that's it. All right. So good question. What is the second question?
So I have two more.
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. That's that's why.
The other quick one is there, what's the mask rules? Are there mask rules?
No, there's no mask restrictions anymore. There's no such thing as, there's no need to wear a mask to and from the field. It's not discouraged. Just like we don't discourage anyone from playing with a mask. If someone wants to do so, that is up to them and the parents, I would say, but there's no need there. So if that makes sense.
And then
right?
Yep. And then my last question is, are soccer balls going to be given out at the first practice, or are we bringing our own? And are they the size 3 or the size 4? I think it said 3 on the website, but I wasn't sure if you guys gave out soccer balls.
I believe we do. I'm going to make a note of this because I'm not entirely sure what we have set up for that. So I'll ask about the soccer balls because I don't think Carl, as our rec program director, is on at the moment. So
there was an email that went out that said we were supposed to buy our own soccer balls.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Corey, for sharing that with us as well. I'll confirm this nonetheless to make sure. But I appreciate the input there. So Jake, hopefully that answered all your questions.
It was a size 3 for 7, and it was so I don't know about 8, but it was a size 3 for 7.
Yeah. If you could just confirm the size of the ball and if you guys are going to provide them, and if not, then send a note to the parents.
So I know for a fact that for U7-U8 you need a size 3. I know on Saturdays the professional coaches will have balls with them, but I'll follow up on this, or I'll ask Carlos to confirm this. They're all good questions. I'm just going to go through the chat really quick. So the first question is in regards to the Saturday session. So the professional coaches will run the session, but as a volunteer, you're encouraged to help out and to engage, especially in the later stages of the session when we do the scrimmage. Also, so you get a better understanding of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do that, if that makes sense. All right, so there's a question asked about who is responsible for checking these COVID health questionnaires. Last year on Saturday, we actually had people out on the field checking these questionnaires. I'll make sure that to confirm how we do this on Sundays as well. So I have to owe you an answer on that, but again, I'll make sure we follow up with you on that. A very good question, and I apologize, I don't have the entire answer for you. All right, so there's a question about the coaches on Saturdays. Normally, you will have the same professional coach for the length of the program. We have it set up in such a way that every time you go to the same field for your session, and you should have the same professional coach. But again, you never know what happens. It could be that someone is out ill or has another commitment and therefore needs to be replaced. But generally speaking, if you show up for, and again, I'm going back to your 8:30 session, you should be on the same field every Saturday morning with the same professional coach. All right. All right. So there's some questions about equipment again. I'll make sure to follow up on all that, or better said, I'll ask Carlos to follow up with everyone on that because I have to owe you an answer on that. And the same will apply to the jerseys. I believe they're in. I'm not entirely sure, and that they will be handed out at the first practice, but I'll confirm, I'll have Carlos confirm that as well. So I make note of quite a few questions that I unfortunately am unable to answer, but I'll make sure that someone gives you the right answer to all these questions. They're all good questions, and I want to make sure that if I don't know them, that at least are provided with the answers you're looking for. Anyone, any other questions that aren't asked yet, anything that's not clear for you yet? Want to make sure that at least you are given the chance to ask these questions now. All right. Either I'm very clear or you guys have better things to do on a Wednesday night. I appreciate you guys all coming on. More importantly, I appreciate you guys volunteering to help out. So I make note of a couple of things that we need to follow up with you on. And they're all good questions about the soccer balls. All right. What about the, who is responsible for checking the COVID forms and the jerseys? So those are the three things I noted based on questions asked both via the chat as well as in person. If this is it, I'm going to stop the recording